It was an ordinary spring morning in the quaint village of Wavon. The sun peeked through puffy clouds as the residents went about their daily routines. Old men ambled along at a leisurely pace while young girls skipped merrily in their fresh cotton dresses. Gray-haired women occasionally paused to rest their tired bones before continuing on. In the village square, greengrocers meticulously arranged cabbages and beets on their stands. The tantalizing aroma of freshly baked bread drifted from the local bakery, identifiable by its cheerful green door. At the smithy, the blacksmith stoked his furnace, sending a dazzling spray of rainbow sparks soaring skyward. Wide-eyed children clutched their mothers' hands, transfixed by the captivating display. Along the frost-dusted country lane leading to the schoolhouse, boys and girls with leather satchels strapped to their narrow shoulders made their way. The occasional rabbit darted across their path, startled by the procession of feet. As they rounded the bend into the schoolyard, the students found Schoolmaster Smith, affectionately known as Old Smithy, holding the large wooden door ajar. Blue-gray smoke spiraled up from the chimney into the cottony sky. Old Smithy peered over his wire-rimmed spectacles, greeting the early arrivals warmly. "Good morning, children. And how are you on this fine spring day?" "We are well, sir," they chorused in unison, just as they had been taught. Life in Wavon flowed at an unhurried pace, as steady and predictable as the turning of the seasons. The children deposited their book bags by the orderly rows of desks before dashing outside to play hopscotch on the cobblestones, their gleeful laughter ringing through the crisp air. 10-year-old Edward turned to 12-year-old Minnie with a pensive expression. "Say, Minnie, you don't suppose Old Smithy is planning to quit teaching and become a plowman, do you?" Minnie giggled at the absurd notion. "Oh, Edward, what an idea! Can you picture Old Smithy behind a plow, his big glasses setting the poor horses to flight? Besides, who would teach us our letters and sums?" Edward shrugged. "I dunno, Minnie. You never can tell with Old Smithy. Remember when he came to school dressed as Winnie the Pooh? We could scarcely contain ourselves for laughing the entire day." Just then, Humphrey Hawkins sauntered into the yard, late as usual, chuckling to himself. It took no time at all for him to add kindling to the speculative fire regarding Old Smithy's future plans. "I heard Old Smithy is going off to fight in the war," Humphrey announced to no one in particular. "No more schooling for us then, hip hip hurrah." Minnie froze mid-hop, her mouth falling open in shock. "Humphrey Hawkins, you stop that nonsense talk this instant. Wherever did you come by such a crazy notion? Old Smithy isn't going anywhere, most especially not to any war. He's staying right here to learn us our ABCs same as always." Humphrey crossed his arms, a knowing smirk on his freckled face. "It's the truth, Minnie. Everyone in the village is abuzz with the news. Billy Bunter's cousin's friend swears he spotted Old Smithy in town just last evening, garbed in an army uniform with a great rifle slung across his back. Old Smithy is a soldier. Can you just imagine?" Humphrey doubled over laughing at the mental image. Minnie's brow furrowed in confusion. "But what war? My father says the last one ended over in Europe a good 5 years before I was even born." Further discussion was interrupted by the clanging of the school bell summoning the children inside. The group of 15 or so students trundled into the cozy classroom, the smoke from the morning fire having largely dissipated. A few pupils lingered by the cracked, pot-bellied stove in the corner, thawing their numb fingers. Others stamped their feet on the well-worn floorboards to banish the chill. At the front of the room, Old Smithy busied himself arranging books and slates in tidy stacks on the left side of his sturdy oak desk. Retrieving a chair, he positioned it alongside the wheezy bookcase and clambered up to retrieve the dusty globe from the uppermost shelf. After giving it a quick polish, he placed the globe in a prominent spot on the right side of his desk where the entire class could view it easily. While Old Smithy's back was turned, Humphrey beckoned to Minnie, whispering excitedly, "Psst, Minnie, look there, beneath Smithy's desk. It's an army cap, sure as shillings." Minnie leaned over for a better look, her eyes widening in disbelief. Sure enough, a green beret sporting a shiny badge rested on the floor under the desk. Extending a cautious hand, she brushed her fingertips across the felted wool, confirming its solidity. This was no trick of the light. Minnie's thoughts whirled as she tried to make sense of this discovery. Could Humphrey be right after all? Was old Smithy really planning to abandon his post and march off to some distant battlefield? The idea made Minnie's heart constrict with sadness and worry. She adored school and relished every opportunity to explore faraway lands through the magic of stories. Old Smithy had a particular knack for spinning thrilling yarns that transported the children's imaginations to every corner of the globe. Minnie couldn't bear the thought of losing her beloved teacher. More than that, she feared ending up like her older brother Thomas, who had never learned to read or write properly. Minnie had big dreams of traveling the world someday, of hopping aboard trains and ships to visit all the exotic places she'd learned about in old Smithy's geography lessons. How would she ever manage if she couldn't decipher signs or timetables? The ability to read was the key to unlock the door to grand adventures. "I'm going to ask Father about this war business as soon as I get home," Minnie resolved firmly. "He'll set the record straight." Her troubled musings were interrupted as old Smithy turned to face the class, chalk in hand. In bold capital letters, he inscribed the name of one of the world's great oceans on the blackboard: Pacific Ocean. The students watched raptly, many of the younger ones hearing the exotic word for the very first time. With a dramatic flourish, Smithy gave the globe a spin, pointing out the locations of the various oceans as the painted surface blurred into a whirl of blue. Despite her best efforts to concentrate, Minnie couldn't seem to focus on the lesson. She gnawed absent-mindedly on the end of her pencil, her gaze drifting to the flock of sheep grazing placidly on the green hillside framed by the window. A terrible sense of foreboding settled over her like a leaden cloak. As soon as the lunch bell clanged, the children slammed their desks shut and burst outside, eager to enjoy the fresh spring air. Some lounged on the grassy verge, observing the sheep with idle interest. Others munched on crusty bread from the bakery, thick slabs of sheep cheese rounding out their simple meals. Without warning, the serene pastoral scene was shattered by the sudden intrusion of loud, rhythmic music emanating from the schoolhouse. The thumping bass drum and blaring horns were totally alien to the children's ears. They exchanged puzzled glances. Old Smithy always stayed inside during the midday break, but he'd certainly never played music before, let alone such raucous, marching band tunes. What could this mean? Seized by curiosity, Minnie dashed to the classroom window and attempted to peer inside, but the blinds were drawn tight. No clues could be gleaned there. Moments later, Humphrey came barreling around the corner of the building, his face flushed with excitement. "Minnie, Minnie, come quick. Old Smithy must be practicing for battle. Listen to those drums pounding out a call to arms. Everyone knows you need rousing music to march into combat." Spellbound, Minnie felt her stomach churn with renewed anxiety. Before she could form a response, the music cut off abruptly. The curtains parted and the students began forming a queue to file back into the classroom. To Minnie's relief and bafflement, the room appeared exactly as they had left it, with no evidence of the mysterious interlude. Old Smithy greeted them calmly, not a hair out of place. How utterly perplexing. As they wended their way home that afternoon, Minnie and Humphrey speculated in hushed tones about what the future might hold. "Old Smithy's gone clear around the bend," Humphrey declared with authority. "Jumping from teaching to soldiering. Whoever heard of such a thing?" Minnie bit her lip, unwilling to voice the awful scenarios flitting through her mind. A life without school, without old Smithy's gentle guidance and the precious gift of literacy that would open up the wide world to her. It was almost too terrible to contemplate. Feet dragging, the pair made their way back through the center of the village. On the surface, everything appeared blessedly normal. Old Mr. Jenkins out walking his poodle, same as every day. Showers of sparks in every hue imaginable still burst forth from the blacksmith's anvil as he pounded away at the glowing forge. And yet, a shadow had fallen over Minnie's heart that she couldn't seem to shake. Tears pricked at the corners of her eyes as the image of the globe on old Smithy's desk swam in her memory. All those exotic lands she yearned to explore, all those adventures waiting to be had, they threatened to slip from her grasp, melting away like fog under the morning sun. A despairing sigh escaped her throat, prompting Humphrey to glance at her with rare concern. He opened his mouth to offer some clumsy words of comfort when something caught his eye that made him stop short, jaw dropping open in astonishment. "Minnie, Minnie, look, there on the post office door, the big poster. It's old Smithy, larger than life." Minnie followed his pointing finger, her feet carrying her closer of their own volition. As the details of the poster came into focus, she felt her heart stutter and then begin to race. The artwork depicted old Smithy grinning broadly, clad in the same sort of green army beret she had spotted peeking out from beneath his desk. But instead of a rifle, he clutched a microphone in one hand. The poster proclaimed in bold lettering, "Coming soon to the town hall stage. One night only. South Pacific. The musical. Starring our very own Cecil Smithy Smith as Luther Billis. March 24th, 8 p.m. Tickets on sale now." Minnie felt dizzy with the swirl of emotions coursing through her: relief, joy, amazement, and a touch of silly embarrassment at letting her imagination run away with her so. "I don't believe it," she breathed. "Old Smithy isn't going off to war at all. He's performing in a musical, a play about the South Pacific. That's why he was showing us the globe today." Humphrey scratched his head, flummoxed. "Well, I guess this explains the get-up and the music. A play, who would have thought it?" Laughter bubbled up from deep in Minnie's chest, born of sheer giddiness at having her worst fears dispelled so thoroughly and unexpectedly. Giggling and chattering excitedly about this turn of events, the two friends continued on their way home, their steps considerably lighter than before. The next morning, the school children were abuzz with the news of old Smithy's forthcoming theatrical debut. The secret was out, and Smithy endured the good-natured ribbing of his young charges with humility and humor. From that day forward, afternoon classes often resounded with the merry tunes of South Pacific as old Smithy taught his students the fundamentals of choral singing. If the occasional lyric was flubbed or harmony was less than pitch-perfect, no one seemed to mind a bit. Joyful enthusiasm more than made up for any lack of polish. Every child begged their parents to procure tickets for the big show. Minnie was no exception, though her motives ran deeper than mere curiosity or a desire to see her teacher make merry on stage. She understood now more than ever how much old Smithy cared for his pupils, how hard he worked to enrich their minds and hearts in ways that extended far beyond the classroom. By sharing his love of theater and music, by daring to reveal a silly, playful side of himself, Smithy was demonstrating that learning and growth needn't be confined to textbooks and times tables. He was showing them that education could be a vibrant, multifaceted thing, as expansive as the world itself. In the end, the anticipation for old Smithy's star turn packed the town hall to bursting on that chilly March evening. Minnie watched rapt from her seat in the third row as her beloved teacher pranced and sang his way through the familiar score, his face alight with the simple joy of performance. For Minnie, the night held a special resonance. As old Smithy crooned "Some Enchanted Evening" in his warm, clear baritone, she felt herself transported to the tropical climes of the play's setting. Palm trees swayed, ocean waves lapped at moon-drenched sands, and a profound sense of wanderlust filled her soul. There was a great big world out there waiting to be explored, and Minnie silently vowed that she would drink up every drop of knowledge old Smithy had to offer, using it as her North Star to navigate the grand adventure of life. One day, Minnie promised herself she would board a train or a ship and set out to see the wonders of the world with her very own eyes. But she would always carry a piece of old Smithy with her, no matter how far she roamed. A teacher who celebrated curiosity, kindness, and the untapped potential within every child. That was a lesson worth holding close to one's heart for a lifetime. As he took his final bows that night to deafening applause, Cecil Smithy Smith looked out over the sea of beaming faces, his students chief among them, and felt a swell of love and gratitude that surpassed any dream of battlefield glory. In the smiles of these children, brimming with affection and awakened passion for learning about the world around them, old Smithy knew he had found his true calling. Soldiering would forever pale in comparison to the privilege of helping young minds blaze brightly with the light of knowledge. Minnie and Humphrey filed out of the town hall arm in arm, still chattering excitedly about the night's entertainment. Above them, the stars glittered in the crisp night sky, infinite, mysterious, and beckoning with the promise of marvels yet to be discovered. "Humphrey," Minnie said dreamily as they crunched across the frosty grass, "I want to travel to the South Pacific one day and see it for myself. Smell the flowers, feel the sand beneath my toes, the whole shebang." "Is that so?" Humphrey grinned. "Well, you just make sure to send me a postcard from your big adventure, and bring me back a coconut while you're at it. I've always wanted to try cracking one of those open." They laughed together, young hearts alight with friendship and a newfound zest for life's rich possibilities. Whatever challenges or joys lay ahead, they would greet them as old Smithy had taught them, with curiosity, courage, and an openness to the unexpected gifts each day might bring. And if Minnie ever found her way to those enchanted tropical isles, she was determined that she would bring along a little piece of Wavon and its most unforgettable schoolmaster. After all, it was old Smithy who had set her on the path to becoming the explorer and scholar she was destined to be. In a way, he would accompany her on every journey she took, every dream she chased. A teacher's love was the most enduring souvenir of all.